Because all of us are becoming increasingly aware of the spiritual and educational responsibilities of all broadcasting and television stations, I was very gratified to have an invitation to offer the opening invocation upon this station's facilities because of this educational and spiritual fact to which we have referred. However, I have taken a prayer which was originally used by the people who gathered at the annual meeting of the National Association of Broadcasters and was composed by the Reverend Clayton T. Griswold for that occasion, and I propose to use it. Let us pray. O Lord of wonder, God of space, creator of man's kind, to those who sought, gave broadcasting a link for humankind. Forgive us if in thoughtless haste we squander thy great gift, surrender the ethereal realm to earthly powers adrift. But may broadcasting always truth to people far and near bring comradeship and brotherhood, thwart war and banish fear. The consecrated ether waves inspire our hearts to prayer, for thou canst surely speak to us as we speak through the air. Amen.
Stand by for K2.
Good evening. I'm Tom Morgan. Welcome to KATU-TV, the new view, Oregon's independent station for independent people of the Northwest. Tonight is the beginning for K2, the beginning of a new concept in television viewing for you. We at K2-TV realize that in order to bring you the type of viewing you will enjoy, we must know of Portland, its past, its present, its future. So tonight, we're offering for your enjoyment two stories. We believe there's a parallel, the story of Portland in the beginning and the story of K2-TV from the beginning to tonight, and what we will be bringing you from 12 noon each day until midnight. Your host for the evening, the former correspondent for the New York Times and the Mutual Broadcasting System, News Director for K2, Mr. Leslie Nichols.
Thank you, Tom. But you know, to really appreciate the Northwest, you have to travel around a bit, and I've done my share since I was born in the Yakima Valley in Washington. I was brought up in Seattle, and the folks used to bring me down to Portland when I was a kid. I liked what I saw then. Guess that's why I started traveling later to see more of the world. Things have changed a lot since my first visit here. The city has really grown. New industry, new streets, new people too. More of everything. But in many ways, Portland did not change. The beauty of it, of Oregon and the Northwest, will never change. The names of many of the founders of Portland will always be remembered. Back there when I was a kid, Dad would take me for walks around town. And I was remembering some of the things he used to tell me while I was driving around Portland just last night. I went up to Terwilliger Boulevard to look at the lights. The city is really beautiful from there. I thought of James Terwilliger, Portland's first blacksmith who built the first frame house in Portland. His family gave Terwilliger Park to the city. We drove along Boone's Ferry Road later on. Jesse Boone ran a ferry across the Willamette along about 1847. They called the road leading down to the ferry Boone's Ferry Road, still do. This morning, I was up in the northwest part of town. Starting down the alphabet, there's Ankeny, Burnside, Couch. Dad told me about Captain John H. Couch. Did you know that Couch Lake used to be where the Union Depot is now? Covered 22 city blocks. In 1888, they started filling in the lake with ballast from incoming ships and sand from the riverbed. And then they built Union Station. Gee, that place looked big to me when I was a kid. You know, I hope they never take down that old clock up there. Let's see, we drove by Davis, Everett, Flanders, Gleason, Dr. Rodney Gleason, one of Oregon's eminent early-day surgeons, charter member, second president of the State Medical Society. Irving, Johnson, Kearney, Lovejoy, Asa Lovejoy, an Amherst man, lawyer. He flipped that 1835 penny with the Yankee from Maine, Francis Pettygrove, to determine the name for the new town, Boston or Portland. Suppose the town might have been different if Lovejoy had won. Would the people be so full of contradictions if they were from Boston, Oregon? Well, take Portland today. The Chamber of Commerce spends time, brains, and money to bring tourists here. But behind the welcoming smiles of hard-working Chamber of Commerce boosters are the scowls of those rugged individualists who want to keep Oregon for Oregonians.
Who wants scenery all cluttered up with people? Used to be a man could get off to himself. Nowadays, you can't drive more than 100 miles and you run into some of them tourists. I try to sick them down to California or else up to Washington. Maybe with Century 21 coming up, they'll all hightail it up there this summer and leave us alone.
Portland, Oregon has a split personality. No, I didn't say that. Richard Newberger did in an article in the Saturday Evening Post back in March of 1947. Let me read it. Portland can't quite make up its mind whether to be a landed squire pruning rose bushes and watching salmon ascend to their mountain spawning grounds unhindered by dams, by piers, sewage, and other impedimenta of industry, or a swashbuckling industrial giant with a concrete-footed boot thrust into the greatest water power stream in America. Well, Bonneville Dam was built. It pretty much determined that we would eventually become that industrial giant. I always liked the stories about Captain Benjamin L.E. Bonneville. Years ago, I read about him in Washington Irving's Adventures of Captain Bonneville. He was a fur trapper, and the Hudson's Bay Company put an embargo on him, wouldn't let him down the Columbia. One day, he met up with a band of company's beaver hunters, and he wanted them out of his hair. Unfortunately, he didn't have any whiskey in camp, but he had plenty of alcohol and a keg of honey. He stirred them together with glorious results. A happy compound of strength and sweetness, enough to soothe the most ruffled temper and unsettle the most solid understanding. Alcohol and honey, and they named a dam after him. Of course, he was a West Point man, fought with considerable gallantry through the Mexican War and later became a brigadier general. These facts may have contributed somewhat to Bonneville Dam being named for him. One deserving man never had anything named after him, Gus Erickson. But Gus lives on in the hearts of the lumberjacks who slaked their thirst at his bar. Gus, you know, never did anything small. His free lunches were the biggest, the best in the country. The soup kitchen he set up during the hard times of '93-'94 served whole beeves, deer, sheep, and pigs.
In its heyday, before 1900, when the forests were much nearer and the lumberjacks much tougher, Erickson's Saloon took up the whole block. Gus dispensed the largest 5-cent schooner over the longest bar in the world.
City fellows mingled with loggers, sailors, cowpunchers, riverboat men, and miners at that long, curving bar. When they made a night of it, the Black Maria rode clanging through the streets and gathered up the loggers, who judged the social success of an evening by the number of stalwart bluecoats it took to subdue them. In those days, a man's size and physical stamina were the main qualifications for a job as policeman. One thing for sure, these boys had to know how to give and take with the punches. In later years, our bluecoats looked imposing as they drove around in the first patrol cars. Took strong men to get those early model Fords cranked up and out on the road. Nowadays, many of our policemen are college graduates, and modern patrol cars are equipped with three-way radios and first aid equipment. Strangely enough, there's a parallel between Gus Erickson's place and our modern police force. Gus never let a man go hungry. And since 1922, the Sunshine Division has seen to it that no family goes without food in Portland. At any hour of the day or night, a police officer can stop at 38 Northeast Russell for food to tide over a needy family until a regular relief agency can take over. The Sunshine Division is the only organization of its kind in the country sponsored by a police bureau, giving year-round emergency help to the needy. Portlanders have always been generous when their hearts were touched. As soon as news reached Portland of the San Francisco earthquake, more than $100,000 in cash was collected for homeless San Franciscans within 24 hours. The First National Bank started the collection with a subscription for $25,000. The Oregon Journal sent its wagons through city streets, collecting offerings of food, clothing, and tents. 2 trains were made up to take the bounty of Oregon's charity to the devastated Bay City. Mayor Harry Lane called on every citizen to give 1 day's income, and before long, the Portland Relief Fund had grown to $250,000. The Visiting Nurse Association was organized in 1902 to help the poor and the sick in Portland. Along with bedside care, they tried to educate people to better health habits. It was an uphill battle. One hot July afternoon in 1909, Miss Emma Grittinger, head of the Visiting Nurse Association, appeared as lecturer at the Chautauqua in Gladstone Park.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you realize the importance of daily health habits? Let me quote from one of our free leaflets of health rules for children. Bathe the whole body at least once a week. Wash the hair every 2 weeks. If vermin should get in the hair, the visiting nurse will give you something to cure it. Do not spit on the floor or the sidewalk. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask your full cooperation in our anti-spit campaign.
Well, largely as a result of that campaign, the city fathers passed an ordinance still in effect today, whereby you can be fined $500 and given 6 months in jail for spitting in public places. The visiting nurses, bless them, are still helping the sick, providing nursing care and health education to the people of this community. But in those little black bags, they no longer carry mustard plasters, camphor oil, and port wine. Present-day medical facilities are different, too, from the first St. Vincent Hospital opened by the Sisters of Charity of Providence way back in July of 1875. 2.5 months later, the Episcopalians dedicated Good Samaritan Hospital on the same location where that hospital still stands. 75 years ago this June, the University of Oregon Medical School opened its doors to 18 young medical students. Now that campus stretches over 101 acres on Markham Hill, an investment of $22 million in physical properties, a staff of 1,600 doctors, nurses, and other employees. All of us benefit in some way from work being done at the medical school. Perhaps your family doctor graduated here, or your family dentist graduated from the University of Oregon Dental School, also on this campus. Perhaps you received care from one of the 2,000 nurses from the University of Oregon School of Nursing. Perhaps your child or the child of someone you know has received special treatment at Dornbecker Memorial Hospital for Children. When the $2.5 million research building is completed this fall, medical education, care of patients, and research will be fused into one mighty weapon against disease and suffering. Makes you feel proud to know we have all this right here in Portland. Dad used to say that Portland became a city when they put on the Lewis and Clark Exposition. It was a tremendous thing in those days. When the exposition opened on June 1st, 1905, all the buildings were completed. Let's hope Seattle does as well with her Century 21. 16 foreign nations and 7 other states had exhibition buildings, along with Oregon's 12 buildings and 3 government buildings. Did you know that more than 3 million people came to Portland for that exposition? A journal editorial expressed their welcome to the home seeker. The sort of people, it said, who are coming to Oregon are welcome and will do well. The soil welcomes them, the climate welcomes them, the forests and prairies and rivers and the mountains and valleys welcome them. The schools and churches and lodges and organizations of all sorts welcome them. The people welcome them. Apparently, the visitors took that welcome to heart. By 1910, the population had jumped from around 90,000 to more than 207,000. There are still many Queen Anne-type houses which, with open front porches and wide shingle roofs, do remind us of the tourists of 1905 who settled here. Split level and ranch homes are stretching out beyond Portland in every direction. The skyline is changing rapidly. In his 1961 report on the affairs of the city, Mayor Terry Schrunk put it this way.
Walking out of the front door of the City Hall on the 5th Street side, I looked to the south to check the progress of the beautiful, some $2.5 million motel under construction directly across the street from the State Office building. Northward, the tremendous Standard Insurance building is rapidly taking shape. As I walked up Main to 6th Avenue, marveling at the ability of men to conceive and construct such tremendous buildings, I looked at the 23-story Hilton Hotel moving upward. What an important part in the life of the city these new structures will play. Walking across the street to the north, I looked at the remodeling now taking place in the public service building where the I. Magnin store will soon open. So it is as I move about this city, marveling and thrilled by the new construction and the fine new facilities that are happening. And now we have a new television station, Katu TV, or K2 as they call it. And I am proud to welcome K2 to the City of Roses. I have heard many good things about KOMO TV, their sister station in Seattle. And I know that this new station will bring some fine programs to our community and will do much in public affairs and civic services. We've been watching with a great deal of interest the construction of your new building out at 21st and Sandy Boulevard. I'm happy to join in this program to wish you a warm welcome to the City of Portland and wish you the greatest of success.
Thank you, Mayor Terry Schrunk. Perhaps you'd like to know about our building. It was in October 1927 that a building permit was issued for a 2-story laundry at 2153 Northeast Sandy Boulevard. For more than 30 years, the Crystal Laundry was here. Then, beginning in April last year, the staunch old building was transformed into the finest television unit in the Pacific Northwest. Here's how we look from Sandy Boulevard. High above the parking lot, an 80-foot microwave tower provides remote pickups throughout the greater Portland area for relay to the Livingston Mountain transmitter 8 miles northeast of Camas on the Washington side. The transmitter is the latest and finest, a 35-kilowatt General Electric. With a 4-bay turnstile antenna, the maximum effective radiated power of 100,000 watts is achieved. Its 2,000-foot elevation is the highest of any Portland television station, and its frequency the lowest, which combines for Channel 2's broad coverage of great areas of Oregon and Washington. The receiving end of the twin microwave systems receive the video and audio signals from the K2 studio, while VHF radio provides communications to the studio and mobile units. Water for the cooling of the giant transmitter tubes is provided from the rainwater collected on the roof. Networks of transmission lines combined with thousands of tubes and thousands of feet of wire were expertly engineered to bring you the finest picture in this area. Well, you've seen our studios and transmitter building. Now, Tom Morgan, take over.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we present Mr. William J. Hubbock, Vice President and General Manager, Katu TV.
Thank you, Tom. Welcome to each of you from all of us at K2. Program personalities, engineers, directors, news reporters and cameramen, secretaries, supervisors, stockholders and directors. Every one of us is dedicated to entertain you, to inform you, and to serve you in every possible way. K2 is an independent commercial station, which means that we are the only station in this area with complete control of our programming. All of K2's program decisions are made right here, rather than in New York or in California or elsewhere. When we select programs from national, regional, or local sources, our choice is guided by your wishes, your interests, and your needs. We exist to serve you. Tonight, as we emerge from 4 years of planning and preparation, we find ourselves once again at the beginning. Now, K2 is the new view in the Northwest, and in the months and years ahead, we look forward to K2's becoming the view, a leader in compelling, creative communication in our coverage area. And now may I present Mr. Bob Roberts, our news editor. Bob?
Thank you very much, Mr. Hubbock. We've already pointed out that the combination of low frequency, maximum power, and the elevation of K2's transmitter give this station an area of coverage that's truly unique in this region. As a matter of fact, our picture is strong and clear throughout most of western Oregon. Along the Oregon coast, we've received reports of excellent reception from Astoria in the north, south to Coos Bay. To the east, Madras and Redmond have reported. In the Columbia River Gorge, Hood River and the Dalles are receiving us direct. And such important population centers as the Eugene, Springfield, Cottage Grove area, Albany, Lebanon, Corvallis, and Salem are receiving pictures of local station clarity. We were in Salem just the other day, and while there, were accorded a special welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, the Governor of the State of Oregon, the Honorable Mark O. Hatfield.
It is my pleasure to welcome KATU to the State of Oregon as another great television station. We know this will represent an additional payroll to our state and another channel to communicate the latest news of the day, entertainment, and education. I want to congratulate the management and the staff of K2 and wish them success.
Thank you, Governor Hatfield. A large section of western Washington state is in K2's coverage area, too. To date, for example, we've had reports from viewers in Seattle, notably in West Seattle and on Queen Anne Hill. The Grays Harbor cities of Aberdeen and Hoquiam are receiving our pictures loud and strong. As a matter of fact, coverage along most of the Washington coast is excellent. Inland, we'll be providing regular service from Vancouver north to Olympia and east to Bingen and White Salmon. So you can see that much of Washington state appears as large on our coverage map as does Oregon. And now speaking to you from Seattle, the Governor of the State of Washington, the Honorable Albert D. Rossellini.
Good evening. It is a distinct pleasure to participate in the dedication of this new opening of an expansion of the communication industry in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm happy to note the circumstance that by speaking on Channel 2, we are reaching not only the people of the southwest part of our great state of Washington, but also our people to our neighboring state, the great state of Oregon. In recent years, I think it has become more and more evident that television has served a tremendous purpose in contributing to the expansion of the economy and culture throughout the Northwest. I am pleased particularly to note that not only television generally, but particularly KATU TV has indicated that they will feature particularly public affairs and news affairs. I think that it is important that in these type of programs, it will reach great segments of the population of both Washington and Oregon. I think it is apparent to most people that as the great Pacific Northwest grows, we recognize more and more that there is a tremendous mutuality of interest between the two sister states of Oregon and Washington. I am sure that the voices being heard from Channel 2, particularly dealing with public affairs, the economy of the Pacific Northwest, and news generally, will do much to even bring closer that common bond between the people of the two states. I know that I join with the other people of the state of Washington when I add my words of welcome to this fine new station, and certainly my congratulations and salutation to Fisher Broadcasting Company for making this available to the people of the whole Pacific Northwest.
Thank you very much, Governor Rossellini. Whoever you are or wherever you are, we welcome you to the Big View on K2. Invite us in every day, noon until midnight. And remember, from now on, the Big View is K2.
What kind of shows will you be viewing on K2? Being an independent station, our program time is flexible. We can try out new ideas. If you have children, you're probably hoping we'll have good programs for youngsters. Well, K2 has a definite philosophy about children's shows. They should be informative. They should be intriguing. They should be entertaining. They should encourage the children to participate. Let's listen in now on Mother Goose, played by Kay Lee, a talented Portlander, experienced in working with preschool children in creative dramatics.
Then they decided they'd better brush their whiskers. Let me see you brush your whiskers. Can you stand up and brush your whiskers? And she brushed and brushed and brushed. That's right. And then they brushed the other side. And they looked lovely. And they said, now we haven't anybody to show them to. And let's run around and show them to the other field mice. So they began running around the field. That's it. And they ran around, and they said, look, mice, look at our beautiful whiskers. And they'd run around and look for some more mice. And then suddenly they heard a loud stamping of feet. Let me hear the loud feet. Let's hear you. That's it. And who was it? Who was it was coming? It was Farmer Gray coming, and they said, quick, 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 run, let's hide. We don't want him to step on us. So they ran and they hid inside the cornfield. And then they peeked their heads out. They looked around to see if he was coming. And he went stamping by, and as soon as he had gone, they came running out again and ran around the cornfield, looking for their friends. They said, it's so cold out here.
Mother Goose will be on every day at 12:30. At K2, we encourage creative talent. So, from 4 to 4:30 in the afternoon, your child will get to know a fascinating make-believe family, Barrel of Nails. Jim Allen, who plays Rusty Nails, shows you his family album.
Say, gang, this is old Rusty Nails, standing here looking over my old family album. Because, you know, so many of my family friends are going to be visiting with us every day, and I'd like to have you meet a few of them. For instance, old Barn Nails, my grandpappy, 72 years of age, he's going to come to live with us for a while. An old fella from the farm, and it promises to be a lot of fun. Old Ebenezer Barn Nails. And then I'd like to have you meet some of my brothers. Here's one from the wild and woolly West. Hob Nails is his name. He's a U.S. Marshal, and he has one of the most unusual deputies, a deputy dog. And the two of them certainly promise to give us a lot of thrills and excitement every day. Yes, sirree. I'd like to also have you meet another brother of mine who will soon be coming to live with us, the Professor Adolf Dominic Del Pico Kingsnickel Filfufer Pretzel Nails. Of course, that's quite a mouthful to say, so we only call him the Professor Nails. Lots of fun and a little on the absent-minded side, too. Here's another brother of mine, claims to be high society, but if you want to know the truth, he hasn't got a dime to his name. He used to live on the third bench to the left as you entered Central Park, but now, coming to live with us, he's going to have to kind of live with us in the big barrel of nails. Then I have a distant cousin coming from the Ozarks. He's one who promised me that he'd be wearing his shoes when he comes to the Portland area. His name is Bent Nails, a distant cousin. Well, at any rate, we're in for a lot of fun with a whole barrel of nails in the hope that you can join us Monday through Friday at 4 o'clock. We'll see you then.
Wish I'd known Rusty Nails when I was a kid. But I had fun with my dad. He used to take me out to the forestry building, the largest log cabin in the world. Being a kid, I was conscious then only of how big those logs were. Now I realize how important lumber is to our economy. With forest industries, they say, employing more people than any other. Fact is, forest products account for nearly 2/3 of Oregon's manufacturing payroll. In talking with a friend in the lumber business, I learned that our commercial forest land, even today, would make a strip 16 miles wide, reaching from Portland, Oregon to Portland, Maine, 2,700 miles. That's not a Paul Bunyan yarn. It's true. Here at K2, we want youngsters to know about those wonderful early days of logging, when the bullwhacker was even more important than the axeman, and logs were hauled down skid roads by 5 or even 10 yokes of bulls. Paul Bunyan Jr. will be in our studios from 4:30 to 5:30 every afternoon. Played by David Alexander, Paul Bunyan Jr. will tell stories, sing folk songs, help youngsters to find out about wood lore, early day crafts, wildlife. Your children will have fun learning about the Northwest and our wonderful heritage. Let's listen in now on one of Paul Bunyan Jr.'s fabulous yarns.
Helped to build this great country, and the ring of his voice crying,
Longest river that ever ran between two banks. Now, it was such a mean river. Why, it pulled some mean tricks, but you know, the meanest tricker that it ever pulled was what happened on a nice sunny afternoon. Now, Paul was sitting up there by the river, you see, and he was taking it real easy, kind of combing out his beard, when all of a sudden, and without any warning at all, why, that river reared up and squirted 3,604 gallons of river water straight at Paul. Now, this made Paul kind of angry, you know, but he thought if he didn't do anything, he'd just kind of relax and ease back, that river would just go away and leave him be. But no sooner did Paul ease back than that river reared up and squirted some more. But this time, for a good measure, it threw in 4 dozen turtles, a half a batch of mud hens, and 4 large carp, and half of last year's saw logs. Now, this made Paul real mad. He jumped up and he yelled so loud that it started a landslide out in Montana. And he yelled so loud again that it scared a minister way out in Missouri, so he cut half the hair off the minister's toupee. Now, Paul kind of eased up a little bit, and finally he came stomping into camp. And he walked over to Ole. Ole's the big Swede. He was the camp blacksmith, you see. And he was about as big a man as one had hoped to see. Now, Paul talked to Ole, and they figured there must be some way they could tame this river.
He sharpened his axe on a mountain. His toothpick was a mighty oak.
In public affairs, K2 offers programs of significance to the personal and professional lives of our viewers, and we hope to explore all possibilities to educate, to entertain, to challenge you and your family. All of these shows, a program, for example, in which grade school youngsters participate, Junior Quiz, with Chuck Bernard as quizmaster. High schoolers appear on Youth Views the News, discussing news of the previous week with Tom Morgan of our news department. Tomorrow's World with Dr. John Elliott Allen of Portland State College faculty as the moderator explores potential effects of science on our lives today. And in his role as the Oregon Observer, Bob Roberts discusses events and happenings of the Oregon scene, a sometimes controversial but always stimulating commentary on the wide area known as K2 land. All these shows are locally produced. They're scheduled in prime evening time from 9 to 9:30 p.m. We all know, too, that Oregon is the place to bring up a family. Children thrive in this wonderful outdoor world of mountains, the seashore, forests, lakes, and streams. In Portland, K2 hopes to further the fine work being done by so many community organizations dedicated to helping children and their parents explore the world around them. In the world of science, at OMSI, Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, are exciting natural science exhibits, industrial science exhibits, an atomic reactor, and the only planetarium in the Northwest, the fabulous talking plastic lady, everything to teach today's youngsters about the world they live in. In the world of art, up in the park blocks, the Portland Art Museum has a fine school for young artists. With the help of Junior League Guide volunteers, the museum also offers introductory and many special tours for young children, showing them that they can see paintings and sculpture at the Art Museum as they go to the library for books. And the world of books. The Library Association of Portland was Oregon's first cultural institution. It opened back in 1864 on the second floor of the old Stark building on First Street. In 1908, the forerunner of the present bookmobile carried books to the county schools, encouraging children to choose their own books. Today, the bookmobile still makes its rounds, delivering books to outlying communities and schools which do not have libraries. And the Central Library downtown has enlarged and remodeled its children's department with new furnishings to create an atmosphere to make reading an exciting adventure for children. The world of history can be an exciting adventure when you explore the Oregon Historical Society's collection of photographs, maps, diaries, records of early days. Unlike many museums, our Historical Society encourages people to use the material. It's not locked up, it's open to the public, and it's an invaluable source of reference. Remember George L. Baker, Portland's colorful longtime mayor? His early years were with Baker Stock Company, where many Broadway and Hollywood stars got their start. But now, try to find photographs, playbills, records of Baker Stock Company. If you have priceless mementos like this, don't destroy them. Give them to the Oregon Historical Society. The world of music. Under conductor Jacob Ashalomoff, the Junior Symphony Orchestra inspires and trains young people in the performance of fine music. Through their own efforts, they find a lasting joy in good music, and they impart this feeling to those who hear them play. Portlanders are justly proud of our fine symphony orchestra and of the contributions which the 75 members of this musical organization make to community life in many special ways. Carl Ottobrino, violin virtuoso formerly with the Rochester Symphony Philharmonic, plays in the 20 regular performances and 3 children's concerts of the symphony, and for the 6 Pops concerts at the Hotel Sheraton. Daytimes, Mr. Ottobrino works for Sawyers Incorporated as quality control engineer on such manufactured products as Viewmasters, 500 slide projectors, and Panaview viewers. You could choose many other Portland symphony players who are also experts in special fields, along with their professional accomplishments in the musical world. Many people, many business firms make special contributions to the history of a city. Agency Lithograph commissioned a Portland artist, Newman Myra, for a series on old Portland. What memories are evoked by the Bailey Gazette, the only Portland hotel, the Skidmore Fountain, now rejuvenated by the Portland Junior Chamber of Commerce. An old car 506. I remember clanging up to the top of Council Crest. We'd go there for family picnics. Now old 506 is in permanent residence up there. Writer Don James calls her Portland's outstanding retired senior citizen. We used to visit the zoo at Washington Park when I was a kid. Nowadays, when I take my own youngsters to the new zoo, I keep telling them how lucky they are. Where else, for example, in the world will you find a zoo like ours here? Portland is jumping with talent. No matter where you are, you can be somebody else in front of the footlights in Portland's amateur theaters, civic theaters, Actors Ring, Portland Players, Lake Oswego, and the drama departments of all the colleges around Portland. They're all putting on great shows. Can't call Portland a Friday and Saturday night town anymore. No, sir. K2 will then sparkle to the northwest at night. Such luminaries as Henry Fonda, who stars as U.S. Marshal Simon Fry in that hard-hitting Western series, The Deputy. Then, for exciting true adventure, it's Bold Journey and High Road. Going along to action-packed drama, The Beachcomber. And here's the star Cameron Mitchell. Then you can watch the hilarious antics of Joan Davis with her complicated domestic arrangements. You can enjoy all the comical confusion an addle-headed woman can create. Then there's Eve Arden, portraying the delightful madcap high school teacher. She's at her funniest in Our Miss Brooks. School was never like this before. Bemused and amusing, mustachioed madman Groucho Marx quips and questions contestants on his fun-filled quiz show, The Best of Groucho. It's part of your new view on Channel 2. See famous stars of stage, television, and movies, all interviewed informally on the new Mike Wallace program, PM. And as you saw, Leo lends his talents to K2 as we present the finest films just for you on such programs as Major Studio Preview, K2 for the Show, Northwest Matinee, Family Theater, and Starlight Theater, offering the finest in film entertainment. The music of Ezio Pinza and Portland's own Jane Powell, the classic comic hilarity of Red Skelton and Buster Keaton. Drama, the play of the week, America's outstanding actors and actresses of the legitimate theater. Mystery, adventure, and love with Bogart and Barrymore. All of these and many more are in store for you on K2's new view of fine film programming. We've introduced you to the great lineup of stars. You'll meet them for yourself on Portland's newest view in television, K2, Channel 2. In 1854, Mrs. Margaret Jewett Bailey wrote a book which she called Grains or Passages in the Life of Ruth Rover, with occasional pictures of Oregon, natural and moral. The Oregonian printed a review of that book by a man who signed himself Squills.
This work does great credit to the printers, Messrs. Carter and Austin, the typography being very clear and the cover neat and immaculate. We seldom read books of feminine production, believing the female's province to be darning stockings, pap and gruel, children, cook stoves, and the sundry little affairs that make life comparatively comfortable and makes them what Providence designed them, helpmates. But affliction will come upon us, even here in Oregon, where we are castigated with so much already. It is bad enough to have unjust laws, taxes, and no money, with the combined evils they saddle on us, without this last visitation of Providence, an authoress. In the words of Homer or his translator, we say, and may this invasion be the last.
I wonder, was Squills married? Did his wife read those book reviews he wrote for the Oregonian? A reporter on the Salem, Oregon Statesman was much better-natured about women. He wrote, "A couple of our downtown ladies appeared in the bloomer costume, short dress and trousers, one day last week. We was not there to see, but we understand the demonstration created an intense excitement in the quarter." Well, that was back in September 1851. Nowadays, slacks are commonplace in downtown Portland, and whether we like it or not, and most housewives wear slacks or capris or pedal pushers for doing those chores around the home. Here's our own K2 hostess for our women's show. She scrubs her own floors, and she loves her work. And she does her own cooking. Sometimes looks like she's hot off the stove herself. In other words, she's a nice average girl, enjoys people, likes to find out everything she can to make life more interesting and fun. She'll not pretend to be an expert, but she's acquainted with so many experts in so many varied fields that she's going to make Northwest living fun for you to watch every day, 12:45 to 2:30 on K2. Glenna told me that this will probably be the only time that she can pose as an authority on her sew. So she's prepared some sound advice for the young housewife of an earlier day. Glenna Page.
Ladies, our first household hint for today. The habit of throwing pails full of water on the floors and letting it sink into the cracks is unsanitary. Use carbolic acid to prevent insect life. For the young bride, entertaining at a light luncheon. First soup, then half a shaddock or some strawberries with hulls on, then a fish dish with rolls followed by creamed sweetbreads, next broiled chicken with rice and peas, then a salad with cream cheese and wafers. Now, any dainty dessert will do, such as charlotte or ice cream with cake and coffee. How to dye your hair black. Dissolve about an ounce of nitrate of silver in a half-pint phial. Then in another phial of the same size, filled with ether, put about half an ounce of phosphorus. Apply the nitrate of silver to the hair with a sponge, and after it is on about 5 minutes, apply the phosphoric ether solution in the same way, and the hair becomes black as fast as you can say Jack Robinson. The hair should then be washed.
Be any hair left to wash?
I hope you didn't take my advice too seriously. But I do hope you tune Channel 2 tomorrow at 12:45 for Northwest Living. We'll talk about you, your family, your home, you and the world, and the carefree you. Remember, for the new you, tune K2.
Hard to realize now that Portland was once a small settlement on the waterfront, population 400. Ferry boats carried people across to that wilderness on the east side of the river. And now, the hub of the east side is the $30 million Lloyd Shopping Center. Retail stores, general business offices, doctors and dentists' offices, and parking facilities for 8,000 cars. Along with its open-air ice skating rink, it's becoming a community center for all kinds of events, from puppet shows to square dancing, from dog shows to band concerts. And almost overlooking the old ferry boat routes is the Memorial Coliseum, which attracts thousands of people to everything from flower shows to ice hockey, from track meets to Kiwanis conventions, from boat shows to basketball. These community and sports activities in KATU's viewing area will be covered by experienced reporters and scheduled for showing at hours convenient for our viewers. On the west side of the river, the town ended at 23rd and Burnside in those early days. Now, it stretches so far, there's no end in sight. And out in Beaverton, there's the Textronics Plant. That was started in 1946 with 5 employees. Today, 4,200 people work there. More technicians and scientists are needed. Here, as in many industries throughout Oregon, there's a shortage of research personnel. Tektronix is manufacturer of the world's leading laboratory-type oscilloscopes. It's a fascinating story, not only Tektronix, but products developed by Tektronix engineers who have gone into special phases of electronics, manufacturing on their own. Argonaut Industries, Exact Electronics, Electrogas. Speaking of electronics, through the worldwide facilities of United Press, the news on top and in depth will be reported instantaneously and reflected upon intelligently by professional working journalists. That's K2's news philosophy. There is, for example, that talented reporter and observer you already met on this program, Bob Roberts, like me, a native of the Northwest. Don't miss Bob each evening at 6:30 on our major news program, Dateline Portland. Then there's Tom Morgan, whom you already know, bringing you each day the news in the Northwest at noon. Kirby Brumfield at 12:15 daily. He's our agricultural expert and also our weatherman on the shows at 6:30 and the news show at 10 p.m. Just about everybody knows Chris Christensen, like Tom Morgan, another native Oregonian, one of the finest news photographers the city of Portland can claim. And then how about this man, Carl Vermilya? Carl brings years of news experience in Portland to our news film division in the news department, and with those fast, classy new cars, he's there almost before the story breaks. You know, some engineers predict that by 1975, Portland will be the center of a huge megalopolis extending northward from Salem to Seattle, 225 miles along Highway 99. They even have a name for this highway strip city, Pugetopolis. To be one of 32 such megalopolises forecast in the nation by 1975. By that time, according to the Stanford Research Institute, Oregon's population will have increased 43%, and that means we'll have 2,300,000 people here. And just 100 years ago, in 1862, people told Henry Weinhardt he was out of his mind when he bought property on the wooded fringe of the village and built his new brewery. Look at Blitz Weinhardt today, way off in the forests of Automobile Row, with only a couple hundred business firms around. Pacific Northwest Bell Telephone Company will build the first new structure in the South Auditorium Urban Redevelopment Project. This multipurpose building will cost $3 million. It will be 2 stories high, with provision for 4 additional stories. Work is beginning in this area, replacing 54 square blocks of outmoded buildings with new modern motels, service and commercial establishments, wholesaling and light manufacturing plants, and apartment houses. A few blocks west, the new Terwilliger Plaza stands out above the hills. Built for retired folks, it is symbolic of Portland today and tomorrow. In these 342 apartments are many men and women who have known Portland even before the gay 90s. And now, from their spectacular vantage point, they watch their city growing in every direction. The Willamette River below them is now a commercial port of call for 29 nations. And out beyond the river are the forests, so green, and the snow-capped mountains, which since pioneer days have challenged men to look toward expanding far horizons. KATU is proud to be part of this Northwest country, where the gentle rains make the trees green, the Willamette Valley rich with harvests, the women smooth-cheeked and good-tempered, and the people not afraid to be themselves.